Story no one. The Mojave Desert in California has always been shrouded in an eerie mystery. During the day, the desert was famous for its beauty and tranquility, but as soon as the sun set, an unusual silence would settle over the land. Locals claimed that behind this silence lay a terrifying secret. A few weeks earlier, a tourist group that had ventured into the desert suddenly went missing. No word was heard about them. The locals said this wasn't the first time such an event had occurred. According to them, a shadow had been wandering these lands for centuries, and anyone who crossed its path after dark would never return. Laura, a brave and inquisitive young journalist, saw this incident as a golden opportunity to add a major story to her career. She had always been fond of tales filled with mystery and suspense, and the secret of the Mojave Desert seemed like the perfect challenge for her. Laura decided she would uncover the truth, even if it meant risking her life. She began her research, trying to find out what had happened to the tourist group before they disappeared. She discovered that they had been following an old expedition map, heading toward the heart of the desert, where an ancient ruin called the Valley of Shadows was located. Laura assembled her team, which included her friend and photographer, Mark, a local guide named Jamie, and an experienced archaeologist, Dr. Allen. Jamie warned them to reconsider before venturing into the area, as locals believed the Valley of Shadows was cursed. But Laura dismissed the warnings as mere stories and continued with her mission. The team rented a jeep and headed toward the Mojave Desert. As soon as they entered the desert, they could feel the strange atmosphere. There was a deep silence, and the air felt unusually heavy. As they ventured further, the sun began to set. The team decided to find a safe place to camp for the night. They set up camp near a small hill and lit a fire, surveying their surroundings. That night, Jamie began telling the group stories about the locals. He mentioned that ancient ruins were found in the Valley of Shadows, but anyone who got too close had never returned. Dr. Allen dismissed it as rural myths, but Jamie's face clearly showed fear. Suddenly, the wind changed direction, and strange sounds began echoing around the camp. Laura tried to dismiss it as the noise of the wind, but Mark pulled out his camera and started taking pictures. In the photos, a strange mist appeared, taking on a human form. The team stared at each other in shock. Jamie, panicking, said, "We need to leave here immediately." But Laura reassured him to remain calm and said they would wait until morning. Throughout the night, bizarre events occurred. The ground would tremble, whispers could be heard in the wind, and the camp's equipment would move on its own. Mark remarked, "This is all in our heads. We need to stay calm." But Jamie's fear continued to grow. At dawn, the team resumed their journey toward the Valley of Shadows. Along the way, they encountered several old signs and ruins that seemed to belong to an ancient civilization. As they neared the valley, the jeep's engine suddenly stalled. Jamie said, "This is a warning. We should turn back." But Laura decided she wouldn't retreat. She was determined to complete her mission, no matter what. Upon entering the valley, they saw an extraordinary sight. The remains of an ancient temple were scattered, and in the center was a large stone with strange symbols etched on it. Dr. Allen commented, "These symbols are in an unknown language, perhaps remnants of an ancient civilization." But as they tried to approach the stone, a terrifying scream echoed through the air, and fog engulfed the entire area. Laura felt that they were standing before some mysterious force. Displeased by their presence, in the midst of the desert, Laura's team was in search of an ancient tunnel. Not only was this tunnel located in a remote geographical area, but its secret was tied to ancient history, known by only a few. One day, Laura and her team discovered this tunnel in the form of a cave at the base of a tall mountain in the desert. The entrance of the tunnel was surprisingly small, yet the atmosphere inside was such that it held the team members back from entering. As they approached the tunnel, they noticed strange markings near the entrance. Among these symbols was the image of a shadowy creature, with web-like lines etched across its body, as if it were the reflection of an ancient spirit or god. Laura and her team carefully observed these markings and sought advice from local experts. According to the locals, these symbols belonged to an ancient civilization that had once inhabited the area centuries ago. This civilization believed that hidden in the desert sands were the natural powers of a deity, which were worshipped through such symbols. They worshipped the god of the sand, and according to them, this deity resided in the hidden tunnels and caves deep within the desert. Despite their hesitation, Laura and her team gathered the courage to enter the tunnel. As they ventured inside, they were met with a new sight. The walls and ceilings of the tunnel were covered in the same symbols they had seen at the entrance. These markings suggested that the tunnel was not only a place of worship, but also a site where the people of this ancient civilization sought to connect with their god. As the team moved deeper into the tunnel, they discovered a room at its center, where a glowing stone was placed. The stone appeared to have some magical power. The team members decided to investigate further, but as soon as they did, a cold wind began to blow, sending shivers through their bodies. For a few moments, a strange sensation overcame their minds, as though they were under the influence of a mournful and mysterious force. Recognizing this moment, Laura ordered her team to immediately exit the tunnel. However, hidden deep within the tunnel was another secret, hinting at another aspect of the area's ancient history. Laura and her team were determined to continue their investigation. But this discovery had now become a new puzzle with answers still hidden somewhere deep within. As Laura and her team entered the tunnel, they were all struck by a strange and unsettling feeling. Just like the symbols etched on the tunnel walls, the atmosphere felt mysterious and eerie. As they ventured deeper into the tunnel, a peculiar chill spread through the air, which felt like a cold wave sweeping over their bodies. This coldness was not just in the air, but it emanated from the spiritual energy of the place, which was unfamiliar and unnatural to humans. Laura instructed her team to move forward, but a wave of fear coursed through their hearts. As soon as they stepped into the tunnel, one of the team members, David, suddenly stopped and his gaze became distant, as though he was seeing something invisible. He motioned with his hand, and in an instant, a shadowy creature appeared. The creature was so swift that it was difficult for anyone to fully see, but its faint silhouette and glowing eyes created an aura of terrifying dread. David's eyes were filled with fear, and he quickly warned the rest of the team. But before they could react, the creature seized David in its grip. His skin changed color instantly, and a red glow flickered in his eyes. The creature's hold was so strong that David's voice disappeared, as though he had been transported to another world. The rest of the team, terrified, began to retreat, but as they turned toward the tunnel's entrance, they realized that the path had been blocked. As the tunnel walls shifted behind them, the door was sealed shut, leaving no way out. Laura quickly urged her team to stay calm and stick together, stressing that they needed to find a way out as soon as possible. But there was more to the tunnel than they had anticipated. Silence had enveloped the area, and an eerie stillness had taken over. They tried to listen for any sign of David, but there was nothing. The creature's attack had been so fast that they had been unable to react. Laura's mind raced with one question: what is this creature? And what does it want? Determined to find an answer, she encouraged her team to press forward. But as they moved another step, another shadowy figure appeared before them, encircling them. It was a mystery that could only be solved within this very place. Laura quickly advised the remaining team members to hide in the tunnel and save themselves from this imminent danger. But with every step they took, the creature tightened its grip around them. This was a decisive moment, and Laura had to take every possible measure to protect her team. The hidden secrets and mysterious forces within this tunnel had become a challenge they now had to face. On one hand, their lives were at stake, and on the other, they had to unravel the ancient civilization's mysteries concealed here. She knew this tunnel was the center of some ancient force, and their presence here could have been a grave mistake. But now they had to survive this mistake and find a way to overcome the previous attack. As they moved forward, another image appeared before their eyes, a dark, blurry shadow in the depths of the tunnel, as if it were watching them closely. Laura quickly organized her team, instructing everyone to stay in position and defend themselves. Now, it all depended on their courage, wisdom, and teamwork to see if they could survive the mysterious attack in the tunnel and escape. Laura and her team encountered a new secret deep within the tunnel. As they moved further into the passage, they began to sense that something else was with them, an invisible force surrounding them. This force, which manifested as a shadowy creature, was, in reality, the remnants of an ancient spiritual guardian. This guardian had taken the form of a person who had become part of the tunnel centuries ago, and its spirit was bound to this place. Laura and her team discovered that this guardian protected the treasures within the tunnel, targeting anyone who attempted to steal them. Every treasure in the tunnel, whether it was gold, jewels, or ancient manuscripts, was a symbol to the guardian, which it would not allow to be taken under any circumstances. Some members of the team speculated that this shadowy creature might be the spirit of a shaman or magical being connected to the religious beliefs of the ancient civilization. Local experts had informed them that this civilization had protected its treasures with specific spiritual powers, and according to their beliefs, anyone who tried to steal these treasures would fall prey to this malevolent spiritual guardian. The team realized that they were not merely in danger in this tunnel, they had become part of an ancient secret that was being protected. As they pressed forward in the tunnel, they felt the shadowy presence drawing nearer, the sound of their own breath echoing in the air, and the cold, deep wind that seemed to carry the creature's essence. Laura instructed the team to devise a strategy to avoid the wrath of this malevolent spiritual guardian. She knew that this was no ordinary creature. Its existence was meant to protect the treasures and the spiritual forces tied to this ancient civilization. Overcoming this guardian was not just a puzzle, it was a victory that demanded the strength to challenge the dark spiritual system guarding this place. The team decided to use their skills and wisdom to confront the guardian. But as they understood the effects of the guardian's spirit, they realized that this was not a battle, it was a trial, a test that only those who sought to understand the true purpose of the tunnel's treasures would succeed in passing. Laura and her team understood that the treasures within the tunnel were not merely wealth, they were a spiritual heritage, a knowledge that had survived even after the fall of the civilization. These treasures were meant to provide a special power and understanding of the truths beyond this world. As they unraveled these secrets, Laura and her team realized that the tunnel's mystery was not confined to the treasures hidden within. It was a gateway to bringing past truths to light, offering them the opportunity to confront the ancient spiritual guardian and alter their fate. But to do so, they would have to link their lives with this ancient power and face the danger that pursued them at every step. The mysterious force within the tunnel had now become a new reality, and for Laura and her team, this was a challenge through which they could uncover the secrets of the ancient tunnel. Laura and her team were well aware that unraveling the hidden secrets of the tunnel was no easy task. On one hand, they were in search of the treasures of an ancient civilization, while on the other, a malevolent spiritual guardian had put their lives in danger. The grip of this shadowy creature was so strong that it was always behind them, and its attack could come at any moment. Every second they feared facing another assault, and with it, their survival could become impossible. When the team finally confronted the creature, they reached a shocking revelation. The only way to stop it was through a human sacrifice. This decision was not an easy one, as it meant giving up a life, and the idea had a profound impact on everyone. Laura, the team leader, informed them that this creature was a spiritual guardian protecting the treasures of the tunnel, and it would only cease its pursuit when a human life was sacrificed. Upon hearing this, a wave of disagreement spread through the team. Some members were terrified, and for them, the idea of sacrificing a life was unbearable. Others, however, believed that if the sacrifice was not made, the entire group's lives might be in jeopardy. They thought that perhaps if one person gave their life, the rest could survive, and the path to uncovering the tunnel's secrets might be cleared. However, Laura immediately stated that this was a serious decision, and everyone needed to make it of their own accord. She did not want to force anyone into this burden, and she wanted every team member to be part of this decision. Afterward, each person expressed their thoughts. David, who had already been attacked by the creature, decided that his sacrifice could benefit everyone. He said that he was willing to give his life because he believed it was the only way to understand the tunnel's secrets and release the ancient powers. However, Maria, another member of the team, refused to accept this decision. She believed that this decision needed more careful thought, and no one person should be granted the right to sacrifice their life. During the debate, Laura looked at their faces and decided that no sacrifice would ever be forced. She told both Maria and David that this was a personal decision, and they should not be pressured into it. Afterward, they all looked into each other's eyes, feeling the depth of this grave decision. The debate continued for hours, and eventually they reached the conclusion that without the sacrifice, there would be no way to survive. Meanwhile, an eerie silence had fallen within the tunnel. It felt as though the tunnel itself was waiting for their decision, as if whatever they decided would be final for this lost and mysterious place. Laura said, "We've all taken a monumental step, and now we must face the consequences. But we must stand by each other, no matter what decision is made." Afterward, they all held hands, silently agreeing to complete the sacrifice, whatever it might require. This decision gave them a newfound determination and courage. It was no longer about who would give their life. It was about the fact that they were all prepared to face the danger and, if necessary, make any sacrifice required to overcome it. A new chapter had begun in the tunnel, and the team members found new strength. The sacrifice was no longer just about one individual. It was about their collective courage and resolve. After the trial they faced in the tunnel, Laura and her team finally reached a solution. To defeat the dark shadow, they uncovered an ancient ritual that the leaders of this civilization had used to imprison the creature. This ritual was not only dangerous for their bodies, but also required the use of deep spiritual powers, which would seal the shadow back within the tunnel's boundaries. Laura and her team studied all the steps of the ritual and put all their energy and courage into performing it correctly. They knew that if they made even a single mistake, they would release the creature once again, and their lives would be in danger. During the ritual, the walls of the tunnel trembled, as if a powerful force was awakening, and then, suddenly, complete silence fell. The shadowy creature that had been chasing them disappeared without a trace. Afterward, Laura and her team decided to exit the tunnel. The tunnel's door opened on its own, and they stepped out into the outside world. As soon as they reached the desert, they realized they were standing in a different desert. The desert they had seen before had changed completely. The sand dunes, which had once been still, were now moving under the influence of some invisible force. There was an odd rustling in the air, and the entire environment appeared still, but something was shifting beneath the surface. Laura and her team felt the change, and a new fear arose within their hearts. They knew their fight was not over. The secrets hidden in the tunnel and the spirits of the past were still somewhere in this desert. As they neared the edge of the desert, Laura paused for a moment to look back. Her eyes searched for the invisible force that was still present there. In that moment, Laura saw a shadow moving in the middle of the desert. The shadow, moving swiftly out of their sight, came closer to them before vanishing. It was a sign that the story was not yet over. Its next chapter was still to be written. The presence of the shadow made Laura realize that everything they had witnessed was just a glimpse, and many secrets were still buried in this desert. The rest of the team had also seen the shadow but paid it little attention. For them, it was more important to escape the danger and begin a new life. However, Laura's heart was still immersed in the deep mysteries of the desert. She told her team, "This isn't over. We still need to uncover the secrets of this desert." Hearing these words, a new resolve sparked within her heart. Laura knew the desert and its mysteries were still following them. She wanted to learn more about the secrets of the malevolent spiritual guardian hidden in the tunnel and was determined to find a solution. The vast desert, which had once been a threat, had now become an invitation that they still wanted to explore. At the end of this chapter, Laura and her team decided that they would return to uncover more secrets of this desert and reveal the truth behind this mysterious place. The silence of the desert, which remained after their departure, had now become the echo of a new question. Would the buried secrets in this desert, which had yet to reveal themselves, pose a new threat? And would the presence of the shadowy creature which had stayed with them prove to be an ongoing challenge for them? These questions continued to swirl in Laura's mind, and she felt a new determination in her heart to finish this story. For her, this was a new beginning, a new journey, in which she would face the secrets buried deep in the desert. One thing was clear in her mind: this story was not over. It had only just begun. And so, this tale was heading toward a new destination, where reality and mystical forces had merged, and where Laura and her team's next challenge was the revelation of yet another mysterious truth. Story No. 2. California, a city that serves as a hub for tourists from around the world, where people come to enjoy the happiest moments of their lives and take in the breathtaking views. However, hidden within this beautiful state lies a secret that is often overlooked, and one that most people prefer not to speak of. In the shadows of this land, there exists a place whose mere mention makes people's tongues tremble, and a deep fear settles in their hearts. It is a place where a dark chapter of nature and humanity's history is buried, a place where, even on moonlit nights, whispers can be heard riding the wind, and where, in the profound silence of the dark, danger lurks, sneaking up like a cat. This story is about that very place, an eerie highway known as Highway 666, a road that stretches through a remote part of California. This highway is not just a road, but a witness to a tale that has entrapped locals and travelers for decades. For those who journey along Highway 666, it is not just a geographical landmark, but a danger that often claims lives, leaving its travelers haunted by the experience. For those who have ventured down this road, it has become an encounter with a fear that lingers in their minds, never truly fading away. Highway 666 points to a mysterious location, one that locals believe holds supernatural forces, alien to human nature. Some say the highway is bound by the spirits of those who have passed, and whenever someone crosses it, these restless souls take hold, leaving an unsettling presence. The nights here are like an endless void, where all light and life seem to have faded, leaving only whispers and the creatures of shadows behind. In such a place, time becomes an entirely different dimension for a traveler. There are many dark events in the history of Highway 666 that have contributed to its infamy. It is said that people disappear along this road with no trace left behind, and their belongings and vehicles remain as eerie witnesses to its mysterious nature. Sometimes these tales are so chilling that the line between truth and fiction blurs, and what is heard becomes an inseparable part of an immortal fear. This story is about that very haunted highway, known as California's Haunted Highway. The story begins on an ordinary night when a blissful couple decides to take a trip down this road to rekindle their vacation memories. But little did they know that they were heading toward a place that hid a long-buried truth. A place where facing a tragic reality was inevitable. This story leads us to the truth that sometimes even the most delightful places are buried in the depths of terror. And until we understand their truth, they will trap us in their snare. The strange occurrences on this highway and its terrifying presence are undeniable realities. This story shows us that some places are not only geographically dangerous, but spiritually perilous as well. Highway 666 is not just a road, but a dangerous chain that, unknowingly, binds those who travel it to a terrifying fate. It is a tale of fear, disappearances, and strange occurrences that have made this area infamous, a place where every person who hears about it feels a shiver run down their spine. This story is not just an entertaining tale, but carries hidden messages and truths that tell us that some places are not just geographical boundaries, they hold a deep history and spiritual significance, which over time turns their reality into a mysterious shadow. The story of this highway serves as a reminder that every person must confront fear, but true courage is only found when one faces the fear hidden within themselves. It was the early 1980s, and in a remote area of California, a desolate highway lay a road that was regarded by locals as a terrifying secret. This highway, known as Highway 666, passed through the mountains, leading to a deserted, uninhabited area. By day, it seemed like any ordinary road, but at night, it became swallowed by complete darkness. Surrounded by towering mountains and dense forests, this road was known for its extraordinary and mysterious nature. Locals always avoided it, believing it to be a place where strange events occurred, and there was no logical or scientific explanation for them. At night, anyone traveling this road found themselves facing an ominous fate, with some even disappearing or encountering inexplicable phenomena that no one could rationally explain. This road, whispered about by locals, had a terrifying history. It was said that anyone who traveled along Highway 666 at night either met with a fatal accident or mysteriously vanished. People often reported hearing strange sounds in the surrounding area, and even when traveling alone in their cars, they felt a presence nearby. These events turned the road into a local mystery, and the reality of what occurred there, along with the fear surrounding it, became a topic of constant discussion. The mysterious disappearances along this highway had earned it its infamous reputation. Many people reported strange changes in themselves after traveling down it, or they never returned at all. Some claimed to have felt a force trying to stop them, forcing them to abandon their journey. Most of the stories surrounding the strange events along the road had one thing in common: they all took place at night, when the highway's scenery turned gray, eerie, and strange. The highway had become so terrifying that it was considered almost a crime to even approach it. Locals spoke of seeing strange shadows and figures following travelers. These dark forces would influence those who encountered them, often leading them astray or causing them to vanish entirely. The chilling tales of this highway had spread so widely that it had become a hidden reality, and no one dared confront it. One day, Jimmy and his wife Sarah, who were deeply in love, planned a trip. They intended to enjoy California's natural beauty and spend the night near a famous lake. The couple, excited to spend this special moment together, set out for their journey. However, due to time constraints and the complexities of the road, they realized they wouldn't make it to their destination in time. As night began to fall, they decided to take the road in front of them. That road was Highway 666. At first, Jimmy and Sarah found the road to be quite ordinary, with no unusual sights or sounds. But as night deepened, and the road wound its way through the mountains, it began to feel unsettling. There was a faint rustle in the air, and an eerie presence seemed to hover around the trees on the roadside. Jimmy reassured Sarah, but her heart raced, knowing that this road was not like any other. Shortly afterward, a dark shadow appeared along the roadside. Jimmy immediately stopped the car and peered outside in surprise. Sarah's heart was pounding as the shadow grew clearer, and it felt different, unsettling. As they approached, they saw a woman in a white dress standing there, her face blurred and filled with distress. She was silent, and her eyes held a deep pain and stories of the past. As soon as Jimmy stopped the car, the woman vanished, leaving an unsettling silence in her wake. Sarah's heart raced faster, and her face had gone pale with fear. It was nighttime, and a complete silence had enveloped Highway 666. The cold breeze and the hidden secrets of the mountains seemed to set the stage for a terrifying tale. On both sides of the road, darkness stretched endlessly, with only the faint light from the car's headlights illuminating the path ahead. The place was utterly desolate, as though time had stopped. Jamie and Sarah's heartbeats were accelerating, but they were trying to support each other as they navigated through this strange area. Jamie had already heard about the infamous reputation of Highway 666. He knew that this road had become a hotspot for old fears and mysterious occurrences, but neither of them believed in such tales. They were heading to a beautiful lake, hoping to make the night memorable, but it felt as though this night had arrived for another purpose. "This place feels so strange, Jamie," Sarah said, feeling a cold shiver down her spine. "I have this feeling that something is happening." Jamie dismissed her concerns, but his own heart was filled with an unusual thrill. A moment later, Jamie's eyes caught sight of a shadow by the side of the road. It wasn't an ordinary shadow, it was solid and clear, as if a person or creature was standing there. Jamie immediately focused his gaze in that direction and slowed the car. Sarah saw it too, and her mind quickly filled with all kinds of thoughts. "It could just be an animal," Jamie said, but Sarah's heart was sinking in fear. As the shadow drew closer, Jamie witnessed an astonishing sight. The shadow transformed into a woman dressed in white. Her face was blurred and indistinct, as if her features had somehow faded away. Sarah gasped in terror and said, "Jamie, what was that? We need to get out of here immediately." Her voice trembled, and Jamie's heartbeat raced. Jamie immediately stopped the car and tried to get a better look at the woman. Her face and body appeared as a strange reflection, and under the road's lights, everything looked even more eerie. The woman's eyes held something peculiar, as if she wanted to say something, but her voice couldn't be heard. Jamie opened the car door, intending to offer help, but as he neared her, she suddenly disappeared. Jamie stared at the spot where she had been, but there was no trace left. Sarah, trembling with fear, said, "This is all too strange, Jamie. We need to leave now." Jamie too felt helpless, but he knew they had to control their fear. He decided to drive off and escape the area, though both of them knew something was following them. This mysterious turn of events would soon reveal a new truth, and the silent, dark night of Highway 666 had become a place where they would never know which truth was waiting for them. Jamie and Sarah's eyes were constantly focused on the road, but what lay ahead was slowly becoming more and more extraordinary. As they continued their journey on this terrifying highway, the atmosphere was thick with an eerie silence, deepening with every passing moment. It was night, and the faint light of the moon cast shadows on the mountaintops, but the stillness and desolate scenery on the road gave an unsettling feeling. Everywhere they looked, it seemed like something was coming closer, like a shadow was keeping track of their every movement. Jamie's heartbeat had accelerated, and he was trying to reassure his wife, Sarah, in his mind, but Sarah kept shifting her gaze from the road ahead to the unsettling air behind them. The mysterious woman they had seen moments ago still lingered in Sarah's mind. It felt as though she was still with them, somehow following them in some form. But the woman had vanished, and her presence seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. Suddenly, a strange voice came from the car's radio. The voice was soft, sorrowful, and deep, like the voice of a woman in pain. It sounded like she was laughing and crying at the same time, and it seemed to be coming from a distant place, yet it felt frighteningly close. The voice said, "Take me back. Free me from here." This phrase echoed in the radio repeatedly, sending a shiver down Sarah's spine. She turned toward Jamie in fear and, trembling, said, "This is getting really strange. We're trapped in some kind of trouble." Her voice was filled with terror and anxiety, and she leaned her head on Jamie's shoulder, breathing heavily. Jamie looked at her, and for a moment, he too was overwhelmed with fear. There was no clear explanation for the voice, nor was there any logical reason for it to be playing. Jamie immediately tried to turn off the radio, but the voice wouldn't stop. It felt as though the voice had become a part of their lives, bound to them in some inexplicable way. A wave of fear swept through Sarah, and she urgently told Jamie, "We need to get out of here right now. There's something here we shouldn't see." At that very moment, bloodstains suddenly appeared on the car's windows, as if someone had pressed their hands against the glass. This scene was incredibly eerie, as there was nothing outside and no one was visible. The bloodstains spread rapidly across the window, and Sarah's condition worsened. A faint scream escaped her mouth, and she clung to Jamie in fear. Jamie, too, felt helpless in this terrifying situation, but he knew they had to do something quickly. He composed himself and tried to accelerate the car, hoping to get out of this nightmare. But as the car sped up, the bloodstains only spread more rapidly, as if they were part of an unseen force following them. Jamie tried to speed up even more, hoping to escape this terrifying situation, but the road seemed never-ending. It was straight and smooth, but the same scene kept repeating itself: the same road, the same trees, and the same dim moonlight. As Jamie turned the car at a bend, the bloodstains appeared again on the window, and for a moment, Jamie was struck with a chilling realization. It felt as though they would never leave this road. Fear lines were visible in Sarah's eyes, and in her panic, she kept repeating, "Where are we going? We need to get out of here." But Jamie, consumed by his own dread, couldn't understand what secrets this road, these voices, and these bloodstains were hiding behind them. He tried to reassure Sarah, but his own voice seemed to echo his own terror. Jamie and Sarah began to realize that they were going in circles, as if they were trapped in a never-ending loop. Each time they approached the same board, simple yet eerie words stared back at them, "No way back." These words began to evoke a sense of unease and dread deep within them. Every time they drove forward, that same sign appeared, fueling their fear. It was as if the place itself had enchanted them, trapping them in its grip. Jamie's heart raced, and Sarah was growing increasingly pale. Her eyes were filled with a fearful gleam, and she tried to understand whether what was happening was real, or if they were trapped in a nightmare. Her mind kept questioning whether they were truly in danger, or if this was some cruel game being played on them. Suddenly, the engine of their car shut off. It went silent. For a moment, both Jamie and Sarah exchanged worried glances and then immediately scanned the road. There was no one else around, not another car, not a single animal, just eerie silence. The stillness seemed to amplify the fear in their hearts. At that moment, the same woman they had encountered earlier appeared from the darkness. She was dressed in white, and her face was now clearer, more terrifying than before. Her eyes were hollow and filled with terror, and her mouth was gaping wide, as though she was ready to devour them. Sarah shuddered violently and screamed before passing out, her body drained of all energy. Her scream sent Jamie's heart racing. Jamie tried to stabilize Sarah, but he lacked the strength to face the severity of the moment. His mind was in turmoil, and he couldn't comprehend what was happening. Fear gripped him, and he felt helpless. The woman, with her mouth wide open, let out a chilling sound. "You desecrated my grave. Now you will pay the price." Her voice was deep, powerful, and filled with vengeance, shaking Jamie to his core. It was a manifestation of deep pain and hatred, as if the woman were alive again, seeking revenge for a long-forgotten wrong. Jamie felt as though he had somehow interfered with her fate. He tried to regain his senses, but his mind seemed to cloud. He was so helpless at that moment, focusing only on trying to protect Sarah from this terrifying apparition, but her presence seemed to consume him. Her gaze pierced through Jamie, as though she had completely taken control of him. Jamie's situation was deteriorating. Despite his attempts to help Sarah, he was too weak to contend with the intensity of the moment. His heart was pounding, and his breaths were quick. The woman's presence forced him to confront a grim reality. This was real. They were trapped in her curse. All Jamie could think about was, why is she here? Why is this happening? And then everything around him turned to darkness. Jamie's condition wasn't improving. Sarah's unconscious state only heightened his anxiety, and he constantly wondered how to get her to safety. The woman's terrifying face and her haunting voice still echoed in his mind. Jamie couldn't tear his gaze away from her, knowing that as long as she remained, they would have no chance of escaping. With great effort, Jamie managed to get Sarah back into the car and tried starting the engine over and over again. Each time the engine sputtered, Jamie's hope shattered further, but he refused to give up. He tried one last time, and this time the engine roared to life. A spark of hope flickered in his eyes as he sped down the road, trying to escape the nightmare. But as the car turned a corner, a truck suddenly appeared in front of him. For a brief moment, the entire road scene froze in his mind, and then the truck seemed like a part of his fate. Jamie swerved the car violently, but at high speed, controlling the vehicle was nearly impossible. His heart raced, and his breathing became shallow. He made one last effort, but the truck loomed closer, and the car lost control, tumbling into a ravine. The sound of the crash echoed in the stillness, and everything around Jamie went dark. After the car was thrown into the ravine, a wave of pain surged through his body. His mind spun, and he tried to tend to Sarah, but she remained unconscious. He had no strength left, and he closed his eyes, succumbing to the darkness. The road lay still, and the shadow of the same mysterious woman appeared again. Jamie's heart raced, but in a daze, he still tried to help Sarah. His mind was consumed by one thought: will they ever escape this place? But as the light in his eyes dimmed after the crash, so did his hope. The darkness around him seemed to claim him, and he realized they might never leave this cursed highway. The wreckage in the car, Sarah's unconscious state, and the presence of the ghostly woman shattered Jamie's resolve. He kept trying to find a way out, but every attempt led to deeper despair. He now realized that this road was not just a stretch of highway, but a place from which there was no escape. The next morning, when the police discovered the wreckage of a car near Highway 666, they were struck with disbelief. The car's condition indicated a terrible accident, but there were no passengers. Bloodstains smeared the windows, bearing testimony to a horrific night. Inside the car, an old radio played a single message over and over: "Free me." The police conducted a thorough investigation but couldn't find any trace of the victims. The eerie message from the radio and the bloodstains left them with more questions, prompting them to delve deeper into the mystery. Locals knew more about this, claiming that Highway 666 was a place inhabited by strange forces and spirits. They believed that one could never truly understand the highway's horror until they experienced it firsthand. It was said that the spirits of Jamie and Sarah were trapped on this road, their screams echoing in the quiet of the night. The legend had it that the woman in white appeared every night, waiting for new victims. Some claim she first appeared as a shadow at the start of the highway, only to take on a full human form moments later. She was said to be the ghost of a woman seeking revenge for her death. This story uncovers the terrifying reality of California's haunted Highway 666, where the roads are built for fear, pain, and death. Jamie and Sarah's tale serves as proof that some places lead only to terror and despair. If you ever find yourself traveling through California and feel the urge to take Highway 666, remember its eerie stillness, its horrifying history, and the dark past that haunts it. The nights there are never peaceful, and those who travel its path will find themselves caught in a world full of spirits and shadows. This tale serves as a warning. Some places are best left unexplored. The curse of Highway 666 never forgives, and its ghosts are always searching for their next victims. Those who disappear into its darkness may never return, their cries echoing in California's winds, a reminder of an unspeakable truth. Story N.O.3. The Deserted Motel of California, California. The place where the sun's warm rays light up the air in the day, and the coastal winds create a charming atmosphere. The sparkle of its beaches and the greenery draw people in, but when the darkness of night falls, those same areas transform into shadows of mystery and fear. Between California's valleys and mountains, there are many places that have become deserted and abandoned over time. One such place is the Shadow Motel, located near a small, obscure town. This motel is an old and dilapidated building that has been standing for decades, but the locals don't consider it an ordinary place. The locals say this motel has always been a hotspot for strange occurrences. As dusk falls, an eerie silence blankets the area, causing a sense of dread. Some people have claimed to have seen shadows moving in the motel's empty windows at night. Others have mentioned hearing mysterious sounds coming from it, like whispers or laughter, even when the motel is empty. It is said that this motel was once a popular spot where travelers rested and relaxed. But then a tragedy occurred that changed its fate forever. According to local stories, many years ago, a horrific murder took place here. A couple who were staying at the motel had a heated argument. The husband was found dead in room number 10, and the wife vanished. After that day, the motel became a symbol of mystery and fear. Today, the building is decayed. Its rusted doors, broken windows, and the moss growing on its walls tell the story of its abandonment. Even during the day, people avoid going near it because they believe something exists there that is not visible to the human eye, but can be felt. The Shadow Motel is famous for drawing in travelers who, while on their journey, seek a place to rest for the night. However, anyone who dares to stay there either becomes a victim of strange happenings or disappears without a trace. The locals say that the shadows within welcome only those whose fate is marked for something extraordinary. This is the ominous and mysterious background that has turned the Shadow Motel into a living legend. If you ever find yourself driving through California's deserted roads and spot this motel, it's best to speed up and avoid stopping there. Some places, after all, are better left untouched, for stepping into them is akin to challenging fate. It was a cold and mysterious night in 2021. Adam and his wife Emma were driving from San Francisco to Los Angeles. Their journey was long and tiring, and it was nearly 2 a.m. on the highway. The The fog was so thick that the view ahead became blurred, making it a challenge to drive. Adam, feeling the exhaustion, said, "Emma, I think we need to stop. I can't drive anymore." Emma opened Google Maps and searched for nearby places. "There's a motel about 5 miles away," she said. "We can stop there. It's better to continue our journey in the morning." Adam agreed with Emma's suggestion and turned the car toward the motel. As they got closer, they saw an old and dilapidated building. The walls were peeling in places, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. A faded sign outside barely read, "Shadow Motel, the best place for comfortable accommodation." Emma stared at the building for a moment, feeling uneasy. "This place looks strange," she said with concern. "It's just for one night, Emma," Adam reassured her. "We'll rest here and leave in the morning." They both got out of the car and walked toward the motel's front door. The surroundings were eerily quiet, and the cold wind hit their faces. Emma tightened the buttons of her coat and looked around, but there was no sound or movement. It felt as though time had stopped. Inside the motel, the atmosphere made them feel even more uneasy. As they approached the reception desk, they were greeted by an old man sitting behind the counter. His face showed deep signs of fatigue, and his eyes held a mysterious sadness. The old man looked at them without a smile and said in a soft tone, "Need a room?" Adam replied, "Yes, we need a room for one night." The old man thought for a moment, then pulled an old key from under the desk and handed it to Adam. "Room number 8, he said. But just as they were about to leave, the old man whispered softly, "Don't go outside at night, especially near room number 10. Emma looked at the old man in surprise and whispered to Adam, "This guy seems strange. Did you hear what he said?" "Yes, I heard. Maybe it's just the rules here or his imagination." "Don't worry," Adam replied casually. Emma's heart was still uneasy, but she quietly followed Adam. As they walked to their room, Emma noticed the door of room number 10. A faint light was visible under the door, and as they passed, Emma thought she heard a whisper coming from inside. Emma was about to stop, but Adam grabbed her hand. "Emma, let's go. We should get to our room and rest. It's probably just your imagination." Emma nodded, but still felt a strange sense of anxiety. When they reached the door to their room, Adam unlocked it and they stepped inside. As soon as Emma stepped into the room, she noticed a strange smell. It was smoky, as if something was burning. Emma looked around, but nothing seemed unusual in the room. Adam, observing the furniture near the wall, said, "This place is really old. Maybe the smell is coming from the furniture or the walls." Emma pulled the curtains aside and looked out. A layer of moisture covered the window glass, and the view outside was enveloped in fog. The silence of the surroundings was so deep that she could hear her own heartbeat. Turning to Adam, she said, "This motel really feels odd. I don't feel right here." Adam gave a slight laugh and reassured her, "Emma, we're tired, and maybe that's why everything seems unusual. Just rest. We'll leave here in the morning." Emma nodded and sat on the bed, but her heart was filled with a strange fear, as if something unnatural was waiting. Adam turned off the light as he lay on the bed, and the room was soon engulfed in darkness. The only sound in the room was the ticking of a clock in the corner. Around 3 a.m., Emma became restless in her sleep. She woke up and sensed that something had changed in the room. A sensation like the breeze of air seemed to float around her. Suddenly, she heard slow footsteps outside the door. The sound was faint, but it was unmistakable. Emma shook Adam's shoulder and whispered, "Adam, did you hear that?" Adam woke up groggy and said, "What? What's wrong?" "There's someone outside the door." "I heard footsteps," Emma said, her voice trembling. Adam listened carefully, but the sound had stopped. He remained silent for a moment before responding, "Emma, it might just be your imagination." In the stillness of the night, even the smallest sound seemed louder. Emma looked at the door again. A faint streak of light was visible beneath it, as if there was a lamp lit outside. But the strange thing was, there were no lights or sources of illumination outside the motel room. Summoning some courage, Emma said, "Adam going out to check." Adam immediately grabbed her arm. "No way. Don't you remember? That old man said not to go outside at night. It could be dangerous." Emma hesitated but reluctantly changed her position on the bed. Sleep seemed far out of reach. A few minutes later, the room's light began to flicker. Both of them stared at the light in surprise. The bulb flickered, and it felt as if some unseen force was present around them. A shadow seemed to pass beneath the door. Emma turned to Adam, trembling. "Adam, what is that?" Adam, uncertain, looked toward the door and said, "It's nothing. Maybe another guest walking to their room." But Emma felt something was wrong. She stood up and moved toward the door, listening intently. Suddenly, there was a soft knock at the door. Emma's hands and feet went numb. "Adam, there's someone at the door." Emma whispered in fear. Adam gathered himself, approached the door, and called out, "Who's there?" But there was no response. A few moments later, the knock came again, this time louder. Adam tried to peek through the crack in the door, but no one was there. Emma stepped back and said, "This place is really mysterious. Adam, we need to leave first thing in the morning." As the morning light filtered through the window, Emma woke up. For a moment, she remained still, recalling the mysterious events of the previous night. But Adam was already awake. Emma found him standing near the bathroom, his face filled with deep concern. "Emma, what happened last night was really strange. We should go to the reception and talk to that old man," Adam said. A few minutes later, they both arrived at the reception. The old man was reading a book, but as soon as Adam began speaking, he stopped reading and turned his attention toward them. "Last night, we heard strange noises outside our room, and the lights were flickering. Are there any other guests staying at your motel?" Adam asked seriously. The old man took a deep breath, as though trying to hide something. "Not many people come here, and those who do don't stay for long." Emma quickly added, "You warned us not to go near room number 10. Can you tell us more about that?" The old man paused for a moment, then quietly said, "Room number 10 is the most mysterious place in this motel. Years ago, an accident happened there. A couple was staying here. One night, due to an old argument, the wife brutally killed her husband." Emma and Adam's eyes widened in shock. "Murder," Emma repeated. The old man nodded slightly. "Yes. After that, strange occurrences began. Many guests claim to have seen a shadow near or inside room number 10 that haunts them at night." Adam looked at the old man suspiciously. "Is this really true, or is it just a story you've made up to scare people?" The old man stared at Adam with intense eyes. "This is not a story. The people who stayed in that room never returned normally. Some ran away, and others, some of them have never been found." A cold shiver ran down Emma's spine. "Has anyone ever tried to go into the room and find out the truth?" The old man quietly said, "Some have tried, but they always ended up in some kind of accident. Those who go into that room always suffer some form of harm. That's why I warned you not to go near it at night." Emma and Adam returned to their room, but the story of room number 10 echoed in their minds. Emma looked out the window. The fog was still present, and from a distance, the door to room number 10 could be seen. "Adam, do you really think there's something unusual there?" Emma asked. "I don't know, but what I do know is that we shouldn't go near that room," Adam replied firmly. But curiosity was growing in Emma's heart. She wanted to know the hidden story behind that room. The mysterious sounds from the night, the old man's words, and the terrifying tales about room number 10 were all swirling in her mind. "We need to do something," Emma said, her tone decisive. "What? Are you saying we should go into room number 10? Adam asked in surprise. "No, but we need to learn more about this place. Maybe we can solve this mystery," Emma responded with enthusiasm. Adam hesitated slightly. "Emma, this could be dangerous. We don't need to put our lives at risk." But Emma's face was set with determination. "If we learn the truth about this motel, it will not only satisfy our curiosity, but also ensure our safety." It was night, and Emma and Adam had decided to try and uncover the mysterious secret. Both were terrified, but their curiosity was so strong that they were ready to leave their fear behind. As they approached the motel, they whispered to each other and quietly made their way toward room number 10. Emma shot nervous glances at Adam, and he took her hand. "Should we really be doing this?" Emma asked fearfully. "We have to know," Adam replied, holding her hand tightly. From a distance, the door to room number 10 appeared to be closed, but they could hear soft footsteps coming from inside. Emma and Adam turned to look at each other, and then Adam stepped toward the door. Slowly, the door creaked open by itself. Emma's breathing quickened, and hesitantly she followed Adam into the room. The sight inside was terrifying. As soon as the door opened, a sharp smell filled their nostrils. The walls of the room were stained with blood, as if some horrifying accident had occurred. An old chair was placed in the center of the room, and on it sat a blurry shadow. Emma and Adam stared at the shadow. It slowly turned to face them. Its eyes had a strange redness, and its face was blurred, resembling a cat's face. Suddenly, the shadow spoke in a low voice. "This place is not for you. Leave now, or you'll end up like the others." Its voice had a cold, eerie quality, as though an inhuman entity was speaking to them. Emma's heart began to race. "We need to get out of here right now," she said quickly. But Adam paused for a moment. His heart was trembling with fear. But he looked at Emma, and then, together, they rushed out of the room. They quickly shut the door behind them and ran back toward the car. Their steps were swift, and their hearts pounded uncontrollably. They knew they had witnessed something that wasn't meant for ordinary humans. "What was that?" Emma asked, trembling. "I don't know, but we need to leave this place," Adam replied. The two of them quickly got into the car and left the motel. Fear was deep in their hearts, and their eyes remained focused on the road, wanting to leave the mysterious model behind. When they reached a local hotel in the town, their bodies were still shaking. The next morning, Emma and Adam reported the incident to the police. The police immediately headed to Shadow Motel and conducted a search. But when the police checked the motel, they found nothing unusual. Room number 10 was just as it had been when Emma and Adam left it. The police stated that nothing was found to be frightening or out of the ordinary. However, the locals still talk about the motel and make every effort to stay away from it. The stories of Shadow Motel are still shared, and it's said that those who stay there either leave quickly or go through some strange experiences. Sometimes they carry a fear in their hearts that never fades. Emma and Adam's lives were never the same again. The images of the Shadow Motel and the mysterious events that took place there were permanently etched in their minds. They never went near that motel again, nor did they allow anyone else to go there. The fear they felt remained alive in their hearts forever, and that experience stayed with them throughout their lives.